All righty. Good morning, nobody. Nobody's here yet. Good morning. Good morning. All right. So, Brooke, I gotta ask. Did you enjoy the snow
I did. Oh
in
my gosh.
Louisiana?
I was
How
so
many inches did y'all
excited.
get?
We got like 6 inches. And so
That's nuts.
it is. I spent most of my life in Pittsburgh and it's new. I'm only
Oh,
lived
okay.
here for
Well,
a couple
okay.
years. So I was like, oh, I was so excited.
That's crazy. Is it all gone now? I'm assuming it's all gone now.
All gone. I'm
It's all gone.
devastated.
That's
I
crazy.
literally played in the snow for a full day like a child. It was amazing.
That's dude. I think my favorite part of Louisiana, getting snow were the TikToks.
Oh, they were so
They were
good.
so good.
So good.
Absolute favorite. TikTok never disappoints.
Never.
Selfishly glad it's still here right now. Anyways, excited for this episode today. I know I say I'm excited. I am excited every day because I get to do this for a job, which is great. And I'm excited for this one because I'm kind of talking to like my twin a little bit here because I mean we're both recruiters
Yeah.
and we both were recruiters
Mhm.
and I would say have both transitioned out of recruiting, which if you don't know our industry, it's really hard to do that. Like, I had somebody at my first company I was at when I was on my way out, and they're like, Taylor, you've developed this skill where you can get out. Because traditionally, if you're a recruiter, you kind of, it's not a transferable skill for the most part. So I'm excited to hang out with Brooke. I mean, again, Brooke's doing the content. She's a recruiter, turning some, to software developer. So we decided to get started a little bit early this morning because this is going to be a great conversation. I'm excited to interview Brooke this morning. But first and foremost, before we start, please say, hey, would love to hear from you. This is a networking platform. I was telling Brooke backstage, been doing this for almost 5 years.
That's crazy.
Half a decade. Started this when COVID hit in March 2020 as a way to give back to engineers. And what I've realized over the course of the last year is this has really turned into a networking platform. I tell this every single morning to people. If you network in the DMs with every person that is watching and you network with every single guest for the last 5 years, you would have my network, which I'm going to brag. It's a really good network. So again, like, and now we're adding Brooke to the network, right? So please go connect with Brooke, send her DM. And again, we'll talk about this too. Please tell her that you came to her from the show. A lot of y'all out here sending DMs with no notes, and it kind of just goes away once we accept it, which I'm sure we'll talk some tactical stuff today. So again, please go connect with Brooke. Please comment, say, hey, I always love to know where people tune in from TikTok. Good morning. What else? Oh, want to give a shout out to Torque, torque.dev as always. Listen, we're a jobs platform, right? I mean, we talk a lot about community. We're doing a lot of community, but we can get you jobs too. So please jump onto our jobs platform. I always post the link after the show in the notes. But please get involved in our Discord. We're doing some pretty cool stuff. Discord's now up over 3,000 members, very actively engaged. So pretty pumped about that. And then also shout out, I am an AppWrite hero. And my colleague Jason, I'm probably the only non-technical hero for a tech company. So blessed to be part of the AppWrite program. So go check them out. If you need basically develop anything back end as a service, that's pretty simple. Use AppWrite. I don't know what those words mean, but I was told to say them. So go check it out. It's great. I want to give a shout out to the people tuning in this morning. Taya, what's going on? Ryan Murphy.
Hey,
Good
Ryan.
to see you. Sally, Ricardo, Chris, Devon. It's great to see y'all this morning again. Know we get started a little bit early, so we still got people tuning in. TikTok again. We got people watching. It's great to see y'all. Katie, it's good to see you this morning. Also, shout out Katie, part of the Torque Discord. She just found a job, her first job in tech. So, Katie, super pumped for you. Very, very stoked for you. Again, extremely excited for your future diving into tech. All right, enough of me yapping. Let's give the people what they want, Brooke. Who are you? What do you do? And we'll go from there.
Hi, guys. I'm Brooke Sweedar. I am a software engineer, a boot camp graduate. And as Taylor touched on, he and I are kind of kindred spirits in a way because I spent a decade as an executive recruiter, not at all in tech in the manufacturing space. And I decided to make a switch. I was done with recruiting. I was kind of underemployed for a long time. And so I knew I had to go somewhere else. And I just realized I didn't want to do recruiting anymore. And I'd been dabbling and learning how to code a little bit on the side just as a passive interest for a while. But I decided, you know what, if I'm going to be making this drastic change, I might as well make it drastic and
Right.
try and break into the tech industry, since I'm going to be starting from scratch no matter what direction I go in, really. So yeah, I decided to do a 6-month full stack web development program boot camp. And it was, for me, a very positive experience. I'm happy to say that. I know not everybody can,
Right.
unfortunately, that's done a boot camp. Mine was awesome. It was great. I had great teachers. So yeah, graduated, made great grades with that. But along the way, I also decided to start networking, specifically on LinkedIn, which I really, ironically, even as a recruiter, just didn't do, really didn't spend much time on there. So I started with 180 connections in February of 2024. And I just crossed 18,000 followers last night, which,
Let's go.
thank you to everybody. Oh my gosh, it's huge. I never imagined any of this, or certainly never doing content creation, which now I do all the time.
It's nuts, right? And then my buddy Dan, who's at my last company, congrats on getting out of the business. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's there's a lot to unpack in this conversation. For those of you watching, please ask any questions. I want to get started. I guess I want to get started of kind of what made you get out of recruiting, right? I think there's a lot of people in today's world that want to start something new, whether it's even in the same field. And then there's our guy Ben. Shout out Ben Pyle for getting Brooke and I connected. And then Jason, it's good to see you, Jason, my community evangelist at Torque. It's great to see you, Jason. So a lot of people and Jason's another prime example, right? Jason, former film guy, was in the film industry and jumped into tech. It's very hard to make that jump. It's very scary. Let's start high level. What words of encouragement would you give people that want to jump into a new industry?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so it is scary. It's terrifying. And especially for me, like I've been working for the same company since I was 17 years old. And so for me now, I'm 29, and it was absolutely the scariest thing I've ever done. It was also the best thing I've ever done. And it pushed me out of my comfort zone. It also taught me about strengths I didn't know that I had. And that was a really cool and tangible that's come from it. I just, like I said, never saw myself doing so many of the things that now I'm doing on a daily basis. But I love the me that I am now. I'm very proud of me now, because to be honest, Taylor, like there were a couple of years towards leading up to me making this switch where I felt like I was kind of living the same day over and over again. I loved the company that I worked with. That's really why I stayed for so long, was I loved the people that I worked with, but I really didn't feel fulfilled in from a career aspect. I felt like I wasn't really doing anything I was particularly proud of. So I knew I just had to make a change, and betting on myself was scary. It was hard. I really didn't have a lot of confidence. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know anyone in tech, which is part of why I started.
At least I did, right? Because at least I was an engineering recruiter. You were in manufacturing, which is like not even in the same realm.
No, not at all. I knew I was starting from scratch, and I also knew from scrolling through Reddit, which don't do, by the way, never do that. But
it's like Googling if you're sick. It's like the worst idea.
Literally, of course, and then you're convinced you're going to die. But it's like, I knew that breaking into tech, especially during this difficult market, was probably not necessarily the smartest thing to do. But I was determined. I just knew I had to try. I had to try.
So let's talk about, one of the things that I try to pride myself on the show is not getting too theoretical and a little bit more practical, tactical stuff to give people some things to take away. What are some basic building blocks that you did to really start to gain momentum from a networking perspective? Because again, at least I was in the tech industry. You weren't even in the tech industry. And I want to continue to reiterate that because it's a very, very hard jump, right? Probably the most technical thing you dealt with was CAD software, right? So like very different type of industry. So what were the fundamental building blocks that you implemented to start to really gain more traction in the tech industry?
Absolutely. And that's such a good question and so powerful. So I decided to start local. That was just what I did, like on LinkedIn. And I also was relatively new to Louisiana too. So that was a whole other thing. So I was like, I don't even really know anyone.
Good Lord. New industry and new city.
Yeah, start literally a new life building for myself.
Have mercy.
And so I decided to just use LinkedIn search feature and look up software engineer, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and see.
Really?
Yeah, and because I'd already enrolled in the boot camp. I didn't start my active networking until like 3 weeks into the boot camp, and I was like, okay, I need to start networking now because I felt I don't want to do this boot camp, and then suddenly I've graduated, but I still don't know anybody. No one knows me, and I'm just another person
And
going.
and that's what 90% of people.
That yes, huge. I mean, absolutely. Like that's a very common experience for boot campers. So I always try and that's actually a lot of my audience is either boot campers or career switchers, such as myself. And I'm like, don't wait,
Don't
start
wait.
now.
Don't wait.
And
Yeah.
so I'm so thankful that I did that because oh my gosh, it's just so paid off. But yeah. So then I would send personalized DMs, and just introduce myself. Hi, I'm a boot camp student. I'm just looking to connect and network with other professionals in the industry. Like, I'd love to add you to the network.
I love this. I love these conversations. I love the tactical stuff. Well, I feel like people can't even. Okay, all right. Let's go even a little further back. Are you sending LinkedIn? Are you sending connection requests in the notes for these, or are you sending LinkedIn DMs? And did you get LinkedIn Premium?
Right. So at first I didn't, but then I looked into premium because I kept getting ads for getting premium. And so
Yeah.
there was there was a 50% off at the time discount if I paid for a year of career premium. So I decided to do that. And then I was able to send a lot more DMs because of that. I'm glad I did. I probably won't renew my premium just to be honest, but for the time.
You bring up a great point. Do you recommend premium for job seekers? This is a little bit controversial take, but we like hot takes on a Tuesday morning.
That's fine. I'm fine with that. So it's like, I'm glad that I did it mainly because I was able to send as many messages as so for that. Yes. But now I'm at the point where I don't send out that many messages anymore. I've sort of built up. I have a lot more inbound than I do outbound for the most part. And from the job board standpoint, I haven't found much value in that. I've hustled through the applying and market yourself as a top applicant or mark this job as a top job for you. And I haven't gotten anything from that. Any interviews that I've had have come from my organic networking. They've come from the relationships that I've built on LinkedIn.
What about so what you messaged people and then it was like, let's have a call. I think people are weird. Like, what do I talk about?
Yeah.
Huge. It's like, what did you talk about?
Yeah. So, my initial posts, like post to the public, to the ether, which, by the way, at the start was nobody. I just want to clarify, like I maybe at 18,000 followers now, but like I started from 0. And so I would just started posting about, what I was learning in my boot camp, showing off my crappy little calculator app that I was building, but learning the fundamentals. Right. And I felt so shy about doing that, mainly because also too, I was kind of like lurking on very well-established tech professionals who had years of experience, by the way. Like we see successful people and we see the finished product, right? We don't see how they started out. And so I felt like, man, is anyone even going to like care? Like, is this stupid? Am I wasting my time? But I could not get over the more I started posting, the comments that started coming in, and then also the private people messaging me who were much more experienced and saying, hey, I see what you're doing. Great work. Keep at it. Don't give up. Like, I know this market's really tough. If I can help in any way, let me know. Like if there's someone I can introduce you to, like people messaging me, not me asking for anything. And so that was very unexpected because I hadn't networked before. I didn't understand the power of it. And I always thought like, your network is your net worth. Like, okay, the most cliche thing in the world, but
I said that a lot.
It's so true though. It's so true.
Yeah. So having some conversations, did you have a specific structure? Did you be like, were you like, and we're going to move on to content creation here in a second, but like, did you like, all right, I'm going to try to have 3 calls a day. Like, did you go recruiter style and like try to have those 3 calls a day or something like that?
So actually it took me a while to start doing calls, or as I call them coffee chats. There are different phrases for it. At first I was just focused on, actually my initial goal was reach 500 connections. That was my first LinkedIn goal. Cause once you pass 500, it just says 500 plus, so that was my threshold. So again, I started local, just reaching out to software engineers, mainly because I felt they would be more likely to say yes. Cause I was still a stranger, but at least I had something in common with them, And then my next step was looking up. So I did Full Stack Academy. That was the boot camp that I did. They're pretty big. So I started looking up other alumni from Full Stack. So all over the US, right? So then I had a common ground with them and I was like, hey, I'm enrolled in Full Stack. Let's connect, or I'd love to hear about what your experience was whenever you graduated, whatever. So that was, I sent out probably like 50 invites a day. This is after I got premium. So I was really aggressive.
Yeah, absolutely. So had the conversations, got to the connections. What I'm trying to make sure I'm like following, like making sure we kind of break this down for people.
Sure.
So I had the conversations. What is one thing that you learned? What was maybe kind of a common theme you can share having these coffee chats? How can people better prepare themselves to have these chats?
Right. So I actually remember my first ever coffee chat, and I was so nervous because I was like about to be on camera with a stranger. And again,
It's terrifying.
Yeah. And I had not done certainly not any sort of video content at the time.
You're great. Your delivery is fantastic. Your delivery is fantastic. So
I appreciate that. But I remember like prepping, and I was just at my computer. I was so nervous. I was like, what if I don't know what to say? So I do think doing a little bit of homework beforehand is just a good idea. If you don't want to waste people's time. If someone is taking the time out of their day to have a coffee chat with you, especially if it's someone you're trying to learn from, or could maybe help you down the line in your career, have some questions. And I will say, like, a common psychology tactic, I don't care what industry you're in, people like to talk about themselves. Always. It's human nature. We are our own favorite topic. So stick to that. Hey, I see that you've been with this company for this many years. What do you like about it? How has your experience been? Or, I talked to other boot camp grads, and I would ask them for tips to success, or, or what they liked or didn't like about their boot camp experience. And I learned a lot from that. One of my favorite things too, regarding tech, I started doing homework on deciding if I wanted to work for big tech, startups. That's another hot topic too. And there's a lot of controversial opinions. So I talked to employees, both. I talked to entrepreneurs who are co-founders at startups. And I also talked to some really brilliant big tech engineers who were very kind to give me the time of day. And I asked them about what they liked, what they didn't like, what the culture was like, how competitive, what's the burnout like for you, to get a feel. Because man, that one-on-one is so much more valuable than any article you're going to read or YouTube video covering the topic.
Absolutely. Johnson, you can absolutely ask questions. So come on, ask away. I think you could crowdsource your way to a job by just doing coffee chats and learning all the things you need to learn.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. So, all right. So we had the coffee chats. We're doing that. When in the world did you decide to do content podcasts? Because of course, listen, if you've watched me for any extent, you'd be like, oh, great. Here comes Taylor with the content and document the job search journey and blah, 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 blah. But telling you it works. Talk about like what was the light switch moment there?
Yeah. So it was a very specific moment for me. I got really lucky and I ended up connecting organically with Nick Cosentino, and he is a Microsoft engineer. Super smart guy. So I ended up just having a DM chat with him. And he has a YouTube channel, and he was like, hey, do you want to talk about your boot camp experience on my YouTube channel? And I was like, oh my God. I literally remember reading that message and just panicking, because the thought of, first of all, him even asking me, because I don't want to say I'm nobody. Every person is a valuable human being, but I'm just saying, I was like, why is this guy even giving me the time of day? He's a total sweetheart. But he also saw what I was doing with my posts. No video content as of yet, but he liked how I was talking and showing my work in public. So, and how I was growing a following even without the video content at the time, pretty rapidly. So he liked that. And I agreed, which was one of the scariest things I ever did. And also one of the best, because it encouraged me to say yes to pretty much everything since then. And it was a wonderful experience. He was a very gracious host. He made me feel very comfortable. So yeah, I'm on his YouTube channel, and that was my first ever video anything. It was great.
I love that. So that was the moment where you were like, all right, I'm going to do this myself.
Yeah. And so then my first video actually had nothing to do with tech. I ended up showing people my favorite items. I have this decorative bookshelf. It has all kinds of cool things.
I love it.
I don't know. I did like a just get to know Brooke, and here's
I love it.
like I want
I
a
love
pageant
it.
when I was 16, and like it I don't know, but I felt like maybe people wanted to get to know me as a person, so I made like a 5-minute video. That was my first video.
I love that. And I think it's so important. I mean, what are your thoughts on, so I think everybody, I mean, listen, not everybody probably has probably the experience to go live. I mean, I didn't necessarily, but I'm saying like not everybody has to, but I honestly think documenting your job search journey is probably one of the coolest things you can do.
Yeah.
To interview. Any thoughts, any tips, tricks for people who are maybe just sitting on the sidelines and have wanted to document but don't know how to get started or anything like that?
I would say baby steps. Because I think whenever you mention content creation, it can feel like this just
Like Mr. Beast or something, like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And to be honest, especially on LinkedIn, like most of us are just looking for work. Like, let's be real. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A lot,
Yeah,
and there are a lot of
what the
creators
platform's there for. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And so there are a lot of people who just don't want to edit videos, they don't want to deal with it. But I will say this. It's powerful. If you choose to do it, it is so powerful. And I think it's worth taking the risk because I think it'll likely pay off in ways you wouldn't expect otherwise. But I always recommend baby steps for people. So if you don't post often, start posting more often. If you lurk, there are a lot of lurkers on LinkedIn. Engage in the comments section or, attend live streams from people that interest you and ask questions, be present and connect with the other people who are also attending and asking questions. You could say, hey, I saw that you attended, Taylor's live with Brooke Sweedar. Loved how you talked about your experience with this. It's so natural. It doesn't have to be like a pitch slap. It doesn't have to be this cold experience. You can really build these relationships organically without necessarily having to go live on your own, or put forth some massive production.
Yeah, absolutely. Johnson brings up a good question here. How do we get freelancers to get consistent clients? Have some clients, but it wasn't consistent. I have thoughts on this too, but definitely obviously want to.
Sure. So yeah, I'm very new to freelancing. I actually literally like the last day of the year agreed to my first freelancing gig. And to be honest, I've had offers for freelancing for months and I've said no to every single one. That's just me because I was holding out for a full-time role. I said yes to this particular one because this guy that I've partnered with, he's a trusted friend and there's a lot of respect. And I knew he was going to be there for me. He knew I would deliver. Like it was just a very mutually exclusive thing. So, beyond that, like I know there are a lot of people who use the boards like Upwork and Fiverr and all these other ones. I'm not familiar enough to give any expertise on that.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, Johnson, just based off my experience, I mean, I hate to say, dude, if you're on a freelance, I mean, you got to learn how to market yourself. I think the biggest problem with freelance, they don't know how to market themselves. So like, you got to be networking every day, doing calls and get really good with your questions. So, and Brooke can attest this as a recruiter, we've gotten really good at asking questions, right? And I think as a freelancer, you have to get to the root of somebody's problems.
Yes.
And so getting on calls and knowing what questions to ask and forming those questions beforehand, I think is incredibly important. I think Ryan brings up a great point. Interacting with chat in the live can be, I mean, listen, I've never met Ryan in person. Ryan, if we've met in person, I'm sorry, I forgot. But but for the most part, I don't think Ryan I've met in person yet. If Ryan came up to me in person, I'd give him a big old hug. I've never met him, but you know why? He's always on my chats.
Right.
Always. So thoughts on this, Brooke?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. There are several people that are legitimately always on my stuff too. And everything is sales, guys. And I know we don't like to think of it that way, but it's absolutely true. And so whenever you're looking for a job, you're the product that you're trying to sell. And so that goes back to marketing. And the truth is people want to work with people that they like and that they feel that they have some sort of trust. So if you're putting yourself out there and you're showing your expertise, you're showing your knowledge and everything else online, it's going to create that reputation. I mean, your personal brand is an extremely valuable thing.
Well, Johnson, someone pushed back a little bit. Definitely we are looking for work, not really in the content.
Yeah.
Totally get it. But I'm telling you, if you want to do freelance, You're going to have to get comfortable putting yourself out there. And unfortunately, whether you like it or not, you got content is just the word to put shit out on the internet.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
it. Right. I want to give a shout out to my girl, Jordan, tuning in. Ronstadt. I met Jordan. She's now been posting consistently. I love seeing her face on LinkedIn, right? Dear. But the thing of the matter is that we live in a digital world today. If you are not posting, you do not exist. And I hate to say that. That sounds really mean. Thoughts on that, Jordan? I mean, not Jordan, Brooke, sorry.
Our next guest.
Yeah, our next guest, yeah.
You're absolutely right. I mean, business deals and relationships, especially in this remote forward world since COVID, and especially in tech. I mean, tech has always been more remote friendly compared to other industries, right? But that is only expanded, and it's only going to continue to. That's just the reality of things. We have the technology to get things done remotely. You don't have to be in office for most things. And so you have to learn how to build relationships with people that you're not sitting across an actual coffee table from. You have to.
Yep, absolutely. So when it comes to kind of where you're at right now, where are you at in your journey still? What are some more things you're learning lately? Are you having any difficulties? Right. I know we're talking about positive things, but like, are you having problems with anything? Kind of give state of the union right now with Brooke Sweedar.
Yeah. So I am still interested in a full-time developer role. I have a preference for that over freelance. Although I will say this freelance opportunity that I'm currently working on is fantastic and has been great real world production experience for me to add to my resume and help sharpen me for interviews. So not negating that at all. It's just a preference. So I'm very interested in working in a startup environment, and I've been very fortunate. So for a lot of my job search, I was fully employed. So I was not afraid to say no to a lot of things, like really, really holding out. And then I decided to start freelancing and cease working at my previous employer. Oh my gosh, that was so scary, but it's fine. And so also I've taken it as an opportunity to kind of step away from the job boards, to be honest, and lean more heavily into my network and those actual connections too. And I'm in talks with some potential other opportunities, which is great. But it's all come from my networking. And also it's allowed me to spend more time on my content creation, which I've fallen in love with. That's not going to be everybody's journey, but it's mine. And leading to me launching my own podcast this Friday, actually, this week.
There you go. So follow Brooke, subscribe to her podcast. Always pumped for people kind of get into this realm of work because it is interesting. I am curious if you've seen this, and as a fellow recruiter, maybe you could test this. I feel like right now in today's world that you have to now have the experience before you get the job.
That's crazy. I don't disagree with you, but it's, reading through, especially like on the actual job boards, like any entry level developer role. Very much quotation marks. It's like 3 to 5 years experience. And I'm like, okay. So,
okay.
And I have had lots of offers for I'll call it work, but for free. Working on things or offered equity, or just for experience. I'm not going to trash on that too hard. Like I said, I've been in a fortunate position where I've just said no because I didn't want to do it.
Right.
I wanted to get paid and hold out for that.
Yep. I think right now, and again, I think free work's interesting. I know I've talked about it, and I always do a caveat of if you can't do it, don't do it. Mm-hmm. But I also would say if you can do something for even 1 to 5 hours a week for free, mm-hmm. on top of if you do a serving job or you're whatever, right? Like, because I'll never forget this guy who I worked with years ago. He had a great resume. He was a 2-year developer, kind of that sweet spot, that 2 years of experience. Right. Right. And it's like, I interviewed him. I was like, hey man, like, love your background. I was like, I kind of screened him and I was like, so how much were you making most recently? He goes, I wasn't. And I said, I'm sorry, what? He goes, I wasn't. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, the last 2 years, this has been kind of like 10 hours a week type thing. And the fact of the matter is when I looked at his resume, he looked it looked amazing. So again,
Yeah.
I know it's a controversial topic. You need to do what's best for you and your family,
Yes.
or your spouse or your partner. But unfortunately, with how competitive the market is if you are just relying on your capstone project and not doing anything else, you will not get very far.
I agree. I really do agree with you. You do need to have more to bring to the table. And again, that goes hand in hand with also talking about competitive edge, marketing yourself.
Yeah.
It, like if a tree falls in the forest, but no one's around, you know what I'm saying? Does it make a sound? The same principle applies to even if you are doing all this work, if you're not talking about it, showcasing it, if no one's going to see it, because again, recruiter brain, I looked at like 200 plus resumes a day for years and I did not spend very much time on each one. I knew
Yep.
what to look for, and if it didn't match, it's a piece of paper. It wasn't a human face. However,
Yep.
if it was, as an example, like a candidate I've worked with in the past, they come across, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this guy. Absolutely. Changes everything. So when your content, whatever that means, building in public, comes across someone's feed, and you're consistent and you're establishing your reputation, it's no longer, oh my God, it becomes, oh, hey, look what they're doing. That's great. They're learning this new skill, or I'm glad to see them covering this milestone or gaining this certification, whatever that means for you.
Yep.
You're no longer going to be a stranger. And you might very likely become the person that someone thinks of. Oh, there's a new job opening at my company. This person could be a fit.
That's all it is. It's all top of mind, baby. Top of mind. Jamie, love to hear Taylor's thoughts on Brooke. I mean, I'm for it. I think job boards are the worst. I think job boards are a time suck right now.
Yeah.
I just think I think you could apply to 100 jobs, and I think you could DM 10 people, and I think you're going to have better success with DMing 10 people. But again, it's hard because in today's society we confuse activity with productivity.
Yes.
Right. So it's like we don't feel like we're doing anything if we're just messaging and talking to 3 people a day. We're like, how's that going to affect me? But we feel better submitting our resume, blindly to 500 postings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And job boards are job postings specifically. The job boards, you can still put your resume on job boards. I'm all about putting your resume on job boards, but in terms of mass applying, I'm against it. Another question for Brooke: what's your take on AI versus software engineer in terms of job allocation? I'm kind of curious what you mean by job allocation.
Maybe it has to do with the talks of AI taking over. You know what I'm saying? Like
Or
saying
using it during your job search. I don't know.
oh yeah, I don't know.
Johnson, if you want to clarify, for us, and we'll come back to it. We'll come back to that. Johnson, clarify for us. Katie, another pivoter as well. Pivoting is so hard. Position yourself to showcase the transferable skills and translate to the language of the job you want, plus learning what metrics are important to the job you want. Thoughts on this, Brooke?
Yeah, absolutely. Plus learning what metrics are important to the job you want. Yeah. So be intentional with what you're learning. That was actually a really tricky thing too. And again, I'm so glad I was networking and got guidance on this, because it's like there are so many languages, so many frameworks, a lot of thoughts and opinions on what you should be spending time on, what you shouldn't, what you're wasting your time on. And again, just as you said earlier, you confuse activity with productivity. You can spend a lot of time doing some surface level tutorials on 20 different things, and you're not going to get anywhere. So I always say, people ask me like, what should I do? It's like, pick a language, pick one and stick to it until you understand the fundamentals and you can build things with it, and then do like a building block learning on top of that and expand outwards. It is good to pay attention to trends, but at the same time, like, just don't spread yourself too thin to be all over the place. That's not a good tactic.
100%. This is interesting, Stephen, fellow recruiter friend. Wild thought here, way off topic. Have internships taken place of entry-level jobs? I mean, possibly. I don't, again, I'm kind of out of the day-to-day recruiting world now in terms of like active jobs, but I would imagine that if a company has a good internship program, that would diminish an actual job posting for entry jobs. Yes, I would say that's correct. Luke, you can watch this in the future. It's going to be on Brooke's LinkedIn after this. You can go check out Brooke's LinkedIn, and it's all across all of my platforms as well. Luke, thank you so much. Everybody's asking. Yes, playback's available. It's going to be on my stuff, YouTube, LinkedIn. It's on Brooke's LinkedIn. That's why I love streaming live, like kind of a content thing. when you stream live, the whole conversation stays on the platform, right? And I've posted about this for a while, that if you're a company or an individual starting, I would always live stream first. Brooke, what else? We're already kind of wrapping up time. It's crazy. Any other words of wisdom, tips, anything else you want to share as you wrap up?
I think especially for people who are starting out or trying to break into this industry, on top of just the content networking, I will say sincerely, like, do not be an island in your journey. It's tough. The market is tough and it's very competitive. And honestly, I think I would have had a much more difficult time, or maybe even still wouldn't be here if I hadn't had these actual support, both from seasoned people who were just being like, it's okay. Like, you're not losing your mind. We know it's difficult. Like, how can we help you? To also other people who are trying to do what I'm doing, it just as an encourager, having those private one-on-one conversations and being like, hey, do you have any advice for, interviewing my resume? Like, these real conversations, because scrolling through, like I said, these articles, or sometimes watching these videos on YouTube and whatnot, it can feel like this impassive wall, but having these real one-on-one connections, friendships that you will develop as you network, that's just going to happen if you're doing it correctly. Man, that's been priceless, and honestly been a huge thing in my arsenal to keep me going, to be honest.
Absolutely. All right. As we wrap up here, please ask any more questions. But Brooke, I do kind of go a little rapid fire here, so a little fun little questions.
Okay.
Again, thank you for coming on. It's been you're a gem. You're awesome. And seriously, best of luck. And again, my network is your network. So if you see anybody I'm connected to, please let me know. I'll make introductions. So first off, Valentine's Day is coming up. Men that are married, have plus ones that are dating, Valentine's Day is upon us. So hopefully you made your reservations. But Brooke, what's like your go-to candy, right? And even if you're not a candy person, just appease me here. What's kind of your go-to Valentine's Day candy?
That's actually easy for me. It's Toblerone, the original flavor of Toblerone.
Yeah, those are great. Those are my wife turned me on. I've never had one, and those are great.
Delicious.
Fantastic. Love that. Who is doing something, I guess, really cool in your world that you want to give a shout out to?
Oh my gosh, so many people. Oh, I'm so nervous. Okay, two people. One, Maho Pacheco. He works for Microsoft. He's building this really awesome product called Vocal Cat to help people like me who are content creators that are one-man bands. It basically helps you cross-post seamlessly. So that's a really cool thing you should check out. And I will also say my good buddy, Vinay Gajar. He lives over in the UK. He's actively looking for work. He's an experienced software engineer. He is one of the kindest people in the world, and he does like all kinds of community volunteering. He shows up to almost all of my lives too. I'm so sad he's not here today, but he normally is. Anywho, he's fantastic, and you should connect with him or hire him because he's lovely.
I love that. Obviously, you're getting into your journey as a developer. What are you working on right now? Talk about maybe some tools you're working on, maybe some frameworks you're working with. Just kind of give us an overview of that.
Yeah. So actually my freelance gig has gotten me out of the React world, which is pretty much what I've spent most of my learning and building time in, which has been interesting and I think good experience for me. And now I'm actually working with Alpine JS. Okay. And it's a lightweight framework that of course is outside of React. Oh my God, Vinay, hi. I'm so glad you're here. Oh, I'm so happy. Anywho, and also dabbling in learning Go, very new. But I think is going to be really, really good because I'm more of a front end gal. So kind of digging into the back end side of things is it's not going to hurt.
I love that. And what was that cross posting app called?
Oh, Vocal Cat, like a kitty cat. So. And
is that a V or an F?
Vocal, like your vocal cords. Like
gotcha. Okay, cool, sweet, awesome. Love that. Kind of a super random question. What's one thing lately that you've done that you just like really enjoyed? Whether it's a meal out, whether it's I don't know, playing in Louisiana snow, like just kind of something you've done lately that you really enjoyed.
I actually am going to give the shout out to my snow day. When I tell you I spent the entire day outside in my backyard frolicking. It was so much fun. And here in Louisiana, that was so rare. So that was just nice.
I love it. All right. Last question. The show's called Guidance Counselor 2.0 because we had guidance counselors in middle school, high school, and college, but now as adults, we don't really have anybody or anything to turn to and really ask for general career advice. So if you could go back in time, I know you're kind of starting your journey again, which is this is a kind of an interesting question. But if even over the last little bit where you've been, kind of getting the software development side of things, if you could go back and tell Brooke before she left recruiting a piece of career advice or a piece of tactical job advice, what would you tell Brooke before she dove into software development?
Oh my gosh. I would say don't get in your own way. And I think especially for women, to be honest, I think sometimes having that confidence in yourself, betting on yourself and trusting that you are actually equipped to take this risk and to face the unknown. It's worth it. Do it. I know it's scary, but do it. And like, honestly, I wish I'd done this earlier, but I didn't. And at least I did it at all. So I'm very proud of everything that's come from it. And like I said, now here I am. Like a year ago, me would not recognize me today. And, podcast host of the Tech Baddie podcast and content creator, software engineer. It's great.
I love that. Well, y'all, thank you again for hanging out with us this morning. Brooke, thank you so much. Stay on so I can say bye to you backstage, but y'all have a great Tuesday. I was going to have the great Aaron Francis on the show, but on Thursday, but we had to postpone. I'm actually flying down to Atlanta to do 36 hours with my right-hand woman, Brianna. We have a lot to tackle for Torque in Q1, Q2. So I'm flying down to Atlanta doing all hands with Brianna. So no lives for the rest of the week from me. So we'll see y'all next Monday. But again, go connect with Brooke. Go subscribe to her podcast that's coming out Friday, right?
Friday.
And y'all have a great one. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Peace.